Greetings and salutations all, I.S. Anderson here once again, and today I'm going to be doing the Bookburger Tag. Yes, another tag. Now, I was going to get the zombie who helped me out in my first tag, the book sacrifice tag, to help me out with this one, but there wasn't enough of him left after that. So today I have a different assistant to help me. It's Mr. Kitchen Hand. Are you ready, Mr. Kitchen Hand? I'm I.S. Anderson, and I spare no expense on my channel. So anyway, let's get into it. The first book that you must choose is, let's see here, it's The Bottom Bun, first book in a series that you loved. Well, that's pretty simple. I went a simple route for this one. The bottom bun of my burger will be Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. And I do think that the first book in the series is definitely the best. Catching Fire I thought was pretty good, and Mockingjay I actually thought was pretty good up until the part where PETA gets rescued and they bring him back, and then there was all that thing between him and Katniss. I think that's when the book starts to... But anyway, yeah, the first book in the series was definitely the best. So my bottom bun would be Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. And Mr. Kitchen Hand, if you would do the honors, please. Alright, good job. Okay, now the second book. The second book is the actual meat of the burger itself. Meaty book, 400 pages plus that you loved. Well, that's simple. The meaty book, the biggest book that I really enjoyed reading was The Stand by Stephen King. This book is 1,152 pages long. Yeah, there are a lot of pictures in it, but trust me, that doesn't really shorten it at all. Okay, so the great thing about this book is it's just a really well thought out book. Stephen King, he basically comes up with the idea of what if most of mankind was to die off in a disease, and how would society rebuild itself, what factions would come up, and who would try to take over, and all that stuff. And it's just a really interesting book and very graphic, as you expect a Stephen King novel to be. And I do recommend this book. I mean, this is the unabridged version. This is the very first printing of the unabridged version that came out, and the abridged version is pretty thick in and of itself. But yeah, this is massive. Over 1,000 pages. Rivals gave them thrones. But anyway, yeah, the meat of my burger would definitely be The Stand by Stephen King. Okay, and well, Mr. Kitchen Hand is working on the burger right now. Alright, looking good there. Okay, so the next two books that we're going to deal with are less than 200 pages long. The Lettuce and the Cheese. I guess the cheese is supposed to be a book that you liked, and the lettuce is a book that you have not read yet but are planning to. Okay, we'll deal with the cheese first, because that's that's the better part of the book burger anyway. So the cheese is going to be New Orleans Ghosts, Voodoos, and Vampires. Now, I bought this book in New Orleans. It's really good. It's written actually by people who do tours of New Orleans that deal with ghosts and voodoo and vampires. Hence the name. And it's actually pretty scary in parts, because the author of this book, she actually had encounters with ghosts and not so much vampires, but she does describe an encounter she has with I guess a New Orleans equivalent of a werewolf, and she says that was the most terrifying thing that ever happened to her. And I don't know how much of it is true or how much of it is embellished or lying or whatever that stuff, but this is still a pretty interesting read. It gives you a lot of the history of New Orleans. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this as the cheese. Okay, so yes, Mr. Kitchen Hand, go ahead and put the cheese on the burger if you would. Alright, excellent. Now, for the last of the cheese, it's another New Orleans book, but I haven't read this one yet. I've been meaning to, but I really want to get to it. It's called New Orleans, A City Named Desire. Okay, and again, it deals with the history of New Orleans. It doesn't deal so much with the supernatural stuff as the other one does, but it's a lot more accurate history, a lot more history in depth. And you might be thinking, geez, why all these books about New Orleans and all that stuff? And why would I? But anyway, yes, the lettuce of the book burger would be New Orleans, A City Named Desire. Okay, and Mr. Kitchen Hand, let's go on with the lettuce, and I understand he's already plated, so let's go and put the lettuce on. And it appears Mr. Kitchen Hand's camera just ran out of battery power. Like I said, I spare no expense on my channel. Oh, but wait, it looks like he managed to get one last clip in and send it to me right before the battery went out. So let's see what that's about. Okay, moving on. Next part of the burger is the tomato, a book that is 200 to 400 pages long that you enjoyed. So for that one, I chose Wondrous Strange by Leslie Livingston. This book is about a girl who finds out basically that she's a fairy, and she falls in love with a guy who is a Janus guard, someone who is abducted from our world and taken into the fairy world. It's a pretty good story. I mean, it's a trilogy. It turns into a trilogy of 3 books. Pretty interesting read. It's got a lot of Irish mythology weaved in there because that's mostly where tales of fairies come from. And it's pretty good. So yeah, I definitely do recommend this. So Wondrous Strange by Leslie Livingston is the tomato of the burger. And sorry I can't show you that, but moving on. So the next book in the series is the Special Sauce. A sauce or some sauce that you never tried before. Special Sauce. Name one book that you thought you would love but hated, or a book that you thought you'd hate but love. So I'm going to go with a book, I think love and hate's a bit strong words, but I'm going to go with a book that I thought I wouldn't particularly care too much, but I ended up really liking it. For that, I'm going to choose the book Rape Girl by Elena Klein. I'm pretty sure I mispronounced that, but apologize. So this book, it's pretty thin. See, probably could have easily used this for lettuce or cheese. But the reason I choose this book is because it takes a refreshing approach to the whole rape scene. This doesn't focus so much on the rape or the trial or anything like that. It pretty much focuses on the aftermath, how the girl deals with the rape after it happens, and how people perceive her after it happens. How she's looked upon differently. And yeah, it is a bit sad, and it is, there are some points about it that can anger you, the way some people react, but it's well written, and it does take a more realistic approach and not so much anger in it. It does something unique in that it doesn't make, I'm not going to say it makes the rapist sympathetic, but it does sort of make him empathetic, sort of explain why he did what he did, and how he didn't realize what he was doing was wrong because he's basically a teenage kid who's just got into high school, and not that excuses that type of action, but it takes a different approach, not just demonize him and make him think, oh, he did it on purpose just to be evil or anything like that, but you can sort of understand, you get a better understanding of how somebody could do something like that. But anyway, I definitely do recommend this book. It's pretty thin, it's cheap, so if you can find it on Amazon, go ahead and give it a read. And now we come to the last book, the top bun of the burger. For this one, we choose a book that is in the series, the last book in a series that you dread because you don't want the series to end, or just something that you think it's going to be bad. But basically, a last book in the series that you are dreading. And the book that I am dreading is actually the last in the Song of Ice and Fire. The last book is going to be called A Dream of Spring, or something along those lines. And the reason I'm not looking forward to it is because, I'm worried about who's going to actually end up surviving the whole thing. And there's certain people that I really don't want to be killed, and we all know anybody could die in that series. George R. R. Martin, he has no reservations about getting you emotionally involved with somebody just to kill them off. I guess he's sick that way. But anyway, yeah, I'll come out and say it. I really do not want him to kill off Daenerys. Anybody else I think I could handle, but if he kills off Daenerys, that'll pretty much be, the last nail in the coffin. I will burn all those books if he does that. No, but seriously, I really hope that she lives and survives, and I hope she, ends up ruling the kingdoms. But anyway, that's not up to me. So anyway, the book that I'm dreading the most is A Dream of Spring. Now, I don't have that book. That book's not even printed out yet. In fact, we're still waiting on the next one. There's supposed to be 2 books from what I hear left in the series. The next one's going to be called The Winds of Winter, which I guess winter finally comes. And, the next one is Dream of Spring. And for that book burger, I'm going to use this one, The Dance with Dragons by George R. R. Martin. I haven't read this one yet. I'm currently reading Feast for Crows, but I'm going to be using this one as the Bookburger, so I guess it's time to put the Bookburger together and see what we got. So here it is. Yep, not very even, is it? Very difficult to hold, actually. It's pretty heavy. So I'm going to go ahead and put this down. And that was my Bookburger tag. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll put all my pertinent contact information down below in the abyss, as always. And this is I.S. Anderson telling everybody, make your lives grand, and have a good day. And remember, kids, spicy food is just like alcohol. Feels good when you're doing it, but you do pay for it the next day.